In this talk, we will learn about the different mating behaviors that are shown by animals. Behaviors are considered as internally coordinated responses of either individual organisms or groups of organisms to internal and or external stimuli. Behaviors normally exclude responses that are more easily understood as developmental changes. Behaviors include actions as well as inactions to different stimuli that are displayed by animals. The discipline of behavioral ecology involves the study of ecological as well as the evolutionary basis for animal behavior. Behaviors evolved through the process of natural selection in order to maximize the fitness of animals. Behavior requires a coordination between the nervous system and other parts of the body. For example, if we consider an individual who has brought their hand or finger close to a flame, the heat generated from the flame is then sensed by the nervous system of that individual. The nervous system then passes this information to the muscles of the hand that allows the individual to move their hand and fingers away from the flame. Thus, we are able to see a coordination between the nervous system and different parts of that individual's body. Behavior is limited by the associations that are generated by the nervous system. And the more the associations that are generated by the nervous system, the more complex behaviors are observed in the animal. There are different factors that can affect animal behavior, and one of them involves the genetic composition of the animal. The genetic composition is usually responsible for innate behaviors and some learned behaviors that are exhibited by the animal. There are non-genetic factors that can also affect animal behavior and are usually responsible to the learned behaviors. This occurs when the animal is able to socially interact with other animals or the environment or other factors that contribute to the behavior of the animal. Many animals have the ability to communicate, and this influences their behaviors. Communication is the transmission and reception of signals between animals. There are different types of signals that are used for communication, like visual signals, chemical signals, where organisms leave chemical trails for other organisms to sense, tactile signals that involve touch, and auditory signals where animals make certain sounds that are then perceived by others. Animals can communicate for various purposes. For example, they can signal the location of food. Bees do this very well by performing a type of a dance that allows other members in the hive to know in which direction they should go in order to get food. Animals can also communicate with one another to signal danger. In this way, they sometimes make sounds or release chemicals to inform others about impending dangers like the presence of predators. Some animals will issue warnings through sound in order to inform others about the territory that are under their control, while others can issue warnings by displaying bright colors that informs other animals that they are poisonous. Many animals will communicate in order to find mates. Animals have evolved many different types of mating behaviors, including deciding how many individuals that they will mate with. Based on the number of individuals that an animal can mate with, mating can be promiscuous, where both males and females will mate with more than one member of the other sex. On the other hand, we can have animals that show monogamous mating behavior. In this instant, one male will mate with only one female and vice versa. Animals that are monogamous in nature tend to look similar, and hence there's no difference in the appearance between the two sexes. On the other hand, we do have animals that are polygamous. In this instance, one individual has many mates. Polygamous animals tend to show sexual dimorphism, which means that there is a difference in the appearance between males and females. One of the sexes tends to be either stronger and or showier or more beautiful than the other. There are two main types of polygamous behaviors, and the first one is polygynous. In this scenario, one male tends to mate with many females. In the case of polygynous animals, the males are normally more showy than females, as we can see in this picture where the male stag has beautiful antlers compared to the female does. We can also have animals that show polyandrous behaviors. In this scenario, one female will mate with many males. In such situation, the females tend to be more showy or beautiful. Polyandry is not as common as polygyny, but is observed in certain types of animals. It is known that mating behaviors evolved to ensure the maximal reproductive success of the organism. Hence, to explain why some animals are monogamous while others are polygamous and even others are promiscuous, we need to understand what are the factors that influence mating behaviors. One main factor is how much care the progeny needs and who cares for them once they are born. Scientists have found that if the progeny needs more care and both parents, the father and the mother, provide that care, then the animals tend to show more monogamous behavior. This is observed in many birds where their progeny need a lot more care and both the mother and father hunt for food and provide food to that offspring. And hence, in the case of many birds, we are seeing monogamous behaviors. On the other hand, if the progeny does need more care, but the male is not needed to provide that care, then we observe that those animals show more polygyny. A perfect example is mammals. In the case of mammals, the mother provides milk to the offspring, which is needed for their growth and survival. Thus, the male does not provide much care, and hence mammals tend to show polygynous behaviors. In addition to progeny, the ecological environment and resources present in that environment can also influence mating behaviors. Polygyny tends to be favored when the territories that the animals live in vary in quality as well as quantity of the resources available. In such situations, females tend to prefer mates that have high quality territory even if those males already have other female mates. The reason being that the high quality territory ensures the increased fitness of the female and the offspring that she will give birth to. Animals can show different behaviors when it comes to selecting their mates. Intersexual selection occurs when the members of one sex chooses mates of the other sex based on their characteristics. Females usually tend to choose males based on who they perceive is healthier, with the hope that their progeny will also be healthier. On the other hand, intrasexual selection is when members of one sex tend to compete for mates of the opposite sex. This is usually shown by males, where males can fight with one another or have competitions with one another in order to woo the female. There is an example called as lekking, which is a very popular example of intrasexual selection. In the case of lekking, a collection of males gather at a place called as a lek, and they engage in competitive displays in order to entice females. This is usually seen in a lot of birds. Some animals show the phenomenon of mate choice copying, where the individuals in the population copy the mating choices of others in the population. Let us take the example of guppies, which are fish. A female guppy normally favors male guppies that have more orange color on their bodies. Hence, they will mate with these guppies more often. They also do not favor those that have less orange coloration on their body. Now, an experiment was performed where a model female guppy was introduced in the tank, and that model was designed so that it associated more with the male guppy that has less orange color on its body. It was observed that the female guppies now preferred the male that had less orange color and were no longer attracted to those that had more orange color. Thus, the female guppies now changed their mating choice and copied the mate choice of the model fish. Scientists have proposed that the mate choice copying phenomenon occurs because by mating with males that other females tend to prefer, the male offsprings that will thus be born will now attract females better and hence have a higher chance of reproductive success. After mating, once the progeny or offspring are born, who takes care of these progeny depends on different factors. One such factor is the certainty of paternity. The certainty of paternity is the probability that the male who is caring for the offspring is indeed the biological father of the offspring. When the certainty of paternity is high, males have a tendency to invest more in the parental care of the offspring. On the other hand, when the certainty of paternity is low, and hence the male is not sure whether it is indeed the biological father, the males tend to invest less effort and energy in parental care of the offspring. It has been shown that the certainty of paternity is lower in animals that use internal fertilization for reproduction. In this scenario, there is always a small chance that the male who takes care of the progeny may not be the biological father. On the other hand, the certainty of paternity is higher when organisms use external fertilization for reproductive purposes. In external fertilization, the males and females are in close vicinity of one another, and hence the eggs are released at the same time when the sperm are released. Thus, there is a higher chance that the male who is close to the female during external fertilization will be the biological father of the resulting progeny. Such males are known to invest more time and energy in the parental care of their offspring when the need arises. In addition to the certainty of paternity, how much care is needed to raise an offspring also determines whether both parents play a role in parental care. Polygyny is normally favored when the offspring can feed and care for themselves quickly after birth. In these scenarios, the males are not needed for child rearing as the offspring develop very quickly. Polygyny is also favored when only one parent is needed to care for the offspring. For example, as observed before in mammals, we saw that only the females are able to provide care to the offspring because they are the only ones that are able to make milk. In scenarios where the offspring needs more care after birth and both parents are able to tend to the offspring, monogamy is favored. In such situations, the offspring are able to survive better when the father helps with parental care, and hence this has been selected over time. With this, we come to the end of our talk where we learned about the genetic and non-genetic factors that can influence animal behavior, the role of communication in influencing behavior. We also learned about different mating patterns exhibited by animals, as well as mate selection preferences. And finally, we learned about parental caring behaviors observed in different animals.